Have you ever wondered why you can wake up feeling exhausted even after 8 hours of sleep? Why certain dreams feel more real than waking life? Or why ancient civilizations worship the night as a sacred passage? It's because sleep isn't what you think it is. Right now, you're being told that sleep is just recovery, that it's nothing more than your brain cleaning itself up. But behind that explanation lies one of the most well-guarded truths in human history. One that science, religion, and media have all silently agreed to keep buried. For years, hidden esoteric texts and suppressed neurological research have pointed to one shocking realization. When you fall asleep, you don't rest, you transfer. And once you realize where your consciousness is actually going each night, your entire perception of reality begins to crumble. You can exit this video now and return to their illusion. Or you can listen closely and learn why every time you close your eyes, something far greater begins. You've been lied to your entire life about what happens when you go to sleep. You've been told it's a time for your body to recover, your mind to dream, and your brain to process memories. That's the official story. That's the version sold to you by textbooks, doctors, and systems that don't want you to look too closely. But if you've ever closed your eyes at night and slipped into a dream so vivid it felt like you were somewhere else, if you've ever woken up with memories that didn't belong to this life, or if you've had the eerie sense that something or someone was watching you as you slept, then a deeper part of you already knows the truth. Sleep is not rest, it's transfer. Every night, without fail, your consciousness is pulled from this dimension and sent elsewhere. And the reason no one talks about it is because if you truly understood what was happening, if you remembered where you went, who you met, and what you're capable of on the other side, you'd never see this world the same again. From the moment you drift off, your body stays behind, but you don't. The real you, the essence of your awareness, slips through the veil. You leave behind the noise, the ego, the limitations of form. You pass into layers of reality that science can't measure, but ancient mystics described in exact detail thousands of years ago. The Egyptians knew it, the Hindus mapped it, the shamans walked it, and somewhere inside, so do you. But they've trained you to forget. They've conditioned you to believe that dreams are random, that what happens in your sleep is just your brain firing off nonsense, that it doesn't matter. But tell me this, why do dreams feel more alive than your waking hours? Why do some messages come through in sleep with such clarity, such precision, that they change the course of your life? Why do you wake up from some dreams feeling as if you've been somewhere else entirely? It's because you have. Sleep is not the end of the day, it's the beginning of your return. When your eyes close, your soul begins its journey, and where it goes depends on who you are, what you believe, and how conscious you've become. For some, it's chaos, fragmented symbols, shadows, static. But for others, those who know how to look, it's a passage into higher dimensions, parallel realities, and conversations with guides who don't speak in words but in frequency. The ancients didn't treat sleep as a passive act, they treated it like a ritual, a form of communion. In the temples of Egypt, initiates trained for years to master dream work. They believed that sleep was the soul's nightly passage through the underworld, not a place of evil but a space of transformation. The Vedic sages spoke of deep sleep, or sushupti, as a state where the self merges back with the source. They said it was the closest you could get to God without dying. And shamans across continents speak of dream walking, stepping into other realms to heal, to gather knowledge, or to confront forces that influence this world from behind the veil. But in today's world, all of that has been erased, reduced to brain chemistry and sleep cycles, repackaged as science, devoid of spirit. And it's not by accident, because a society that remembers its nightly journey is a society that becomes ungovernable. You can't control people who realize they're multidimensional beings. You can't enslave a soul that travels galaxies while the body lies still. So they feed you sleep aids, screens, distractions. They calcify the gateway in your brain and call your visions hallucinations. They silence the stories of children who remember other lives. They label the dreamers, the lucid ones, as fringe, as crazy, as wrong. But you're not crazy, you're waking up. The pineal gland, that tiny pine cone-shaped structure buried deep in the center of your brain, is not just a relic of evolution. It's a transmitter, a stargate. The ancients carved its symbol into stone, placed it at the tops of staffs, and honored it in rituals because they knew it was the antenna, the bridge between matter and spirit. When activated, it doesn't just produce melatonin, it opens the gateway. It shifts your frequency, dissolves the illusion of time, and allows you to tune into the realms most people sleep through. This is why some dreams feel like messages, because they are. Why you sometimes see places you've never been yet feel like you know them, because you've been there before. Why on rare nights you become aware that you're dreaming and suddenly gain control, because that is the moment your soul remembers its power. And once you remember, everything changes. You begin to see sleep not as a break from life, but as an extension of it, a continuation, one that exists beyond physicality. You start preparing before you go to bed. You clear your space, you set intentions, you say to yourself, "Tonight, I remember. Tonight, I travel." And when you do, something begins to shift. The noise fades, the signal strengthens. The dreams become sharper, more structured. You stop falling asleep, and you start launching. And here's where it gets even deeper. Because you're not just going to another place, you're becoming someone else. Or rather, another version of you is stepping forward. A version that's been waiting, watching, guiding you from behind the scenes. When you sleep, the ego softens, the walls fall, and in that moment your higher self steps in. Not a fantasy, not a metaphor, but a real intelligent aspect of you that operates outside of this timeline. This part of you doesn't need language. It doesn't need proof. It communicates through symbols, synchronicities, and energetic knowing. It shows you what your conscious mind can't grasp, and sometimes it pulls you aside in a dream, looks you in the eye, and says something you've been trying to tell yourself for years. And when that happens, when you receive that message, something stirs, not just in your mind but in your DNA. It's like a memory reawakening, a knowing you can't explain but can't deny either. You might wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, tears in your eyes, not from fear, but because for the first time in a long time you felt something real, something beyond this body, beyond this life. You weren't asleep, you were home. But most people never get there. Not because they can't, but because they're blocked, disconnected. Their pineal glands, once a luminous antenna, tuned to divine frequencies, have been dulled. Years of fluoride, toxic food, overstimulation, trauma. These things aren't just harmful to the body, they interfere with the soul's ability to navigate. They distort the signal, they scramble the journey. And that's no accident. If you remembered where you came from every night, you'd stop playing small during the day. But all is not lost. You can reclaim it. You can reverse the damage. You can decalcify the gate and reopen the bridge. It starts with awareness, with detoxifying not just your body but your beliefs. It starts with asking the forbidden question, what if sleep is the most important part of my day? What if this is when the real work begins? Because it is. In sleep, you process more than memories. You process timelines, choices, karma. You step outside of linear time and explore outcomes your waking mind could never understand. You test versions of yourself. You rehearse destinies. And sometimes, when you're ready, you leap. You visit the future. You witness parallel lives. You experience love that shatters you or fear that exposes what still holds you back. And through it all, something inside you watches, learns, evolves. The body doesn't go anywhere, but you do. Because you are not your body. You never were. And sleep is your proof. Some nights you might enter lucid states, moments when you realize you're dreaming and suddenly everything becomes yours to control. These aren't flukes, these are cracks in the illusion, evidence that you're waking up even while you sleep. And when you learn to stabilize that awareness, to hold it steady as the dream shifts, you gain access to something almost no one talks about, the ability to create. Not just observe, not just float, but create whole landscapes, scenarios, conversations. healing temples, sacred codes. You become a god in your own dream, and through that you remember what you're capable of in waking life. But it doesn't stop there, because once you've mastered lucidity, you begin to realize that even dreams have layers. The lucid dream is just the surface. Beneath it lies the astral, the real, the place where thought shapes matter instantly, where you're no longer tethered to your physical story, where you can visit other beings, access ancient libraries, or receive downloads so precise they alter your energy on contact. You wake up changed, lighter, wiser. You speak with clarity you didn't have the day before. You make decisions that feel effortless, because the answers didn't come from thought, they came from transmission. In those moments you begin to feel it, that maybe the real world isn't this one. Maybe this waking life is just one layer of a much larger spectrum. Maybe the people you meet in dreams are more real than the ones who pass you by during the day. And maybe, just maybe, you've been sleepwalking through life, and only truly awake when your eyes are closed. That realization is terrifying to some, but freeing to others, because once you understand that consciousness is not confined to the brain, that your awareness exists beyond flesh, the game changes. Death loses its grip. Fear loses its teeth. You stop being afraid to lose what was never you to begin with, and suddenly sleep isn't something you dread or dismiss. It becomes sacred, a temple, a nightly return to your origin. And yet no one talks about it. Your teachers never mentioned it. Your doctors never warned you. They tell you to get your 8 hours, but they never tell you why those 8 hours might be more important than all your waking ones combined. They never tell you that indigenous cultures use dreams to make decisions for the tribe, that entire battles, inventions, cures came from dreams. They never told you that your subconscious isn't a trash can for thoughts, it's a transmitter for truth. Even worse, they pathologize your experiences. They call your dream visitations sleep paralysis. They label your out-of-body moments as hallucinations. They give you pills to suppress them, therapy to explain them away. But deep down, you know better, because you've felt it. The presence at the foot of your bed, the sensation of floating, the echo of a voice you can't trace but somehow trust. You weren't broken, you were crossing over. And now it's time to cross over consciously. You don't need to be asleep to transfer anymore. You don't need to wait for the night, because the boundary between dream and waking is thinner than you think, and the more aware you become, the more those boundaries dissolve. You begin to have waking dreams, visions, downloads, and suddenly you realize you're still transferring, but now with your eyes wide open. This is what they don't want. An awakened dreamer, a soul who no longer depends on the system for answers, someone who can access infinite knowledge, heal themselves, and navigate multiple realities with ease. Because if you can do that, you don't need them, you don't fear them, you don't play their game, and that is what makes you dangerous. So the next time you lay your head down at night, don't say you're going to sleep, say you're about to travel. Say you're about to remember. Say you're ready to return to where the truth lives. Close your eyes, not to escape, but to awaken, because your body may rest, but you have places to go. You've heard people say, sleep on it, as if some miracle of clarity arrives by morning. But have you ever wondered why that actually works? It's not because your brain sorted through data. It's because you did, somewhere out there, beyond thought, beyond form. Another version of you explored the path, saw the outcomes, and whispered the answer back through the veil. That idea you woke up with, that gut feeling, that knowing, it came from a version of you that was never asleep. Because consciousness doesn't shut down, it shifts, it adapts, it moves through layers of density and awareness. And during sleep, when your conscious mind finally steps aside, you become free to explore the parts of yourself that most people never touch in a lifetime. But here's the catch. You don't always remember. You're not meant to, unless you're ready. And most aren't. They rush into sleep with TV light flickering in their faces. anxiety swirling in their minds, their last thought being a worry or a notification or a craving. They don't enter sleep, they collapse into it. No intention, no awareness, no reverence. And then they wonder why they wake up heavy, why their dreams are chaotic, why their soul feels distant. Because they treated a sacred portal like a routine. But you don't have to. You can treat sleep like the ceremony it truly is. You can prepare for it like the ancient mystics did, not with rituals of religion but with quiet, focused presence. Clean your space, power down the noise, light a candle, drink clean water, set your intention like an anchor. Tonight I receive, tonight I remember, tonight I travel consciously. Because when you do this, the veil listens, the realms align, the guardians open the door just a little wider, and something changes. You stop having dreams, and you start having experiences. You might find yourself in a vast library of knowledge, touching books with symbols that glow. You might walk through temples made of light, guided by beings who don't speak in language but in waves of feeling. You might stand at the edge of a cosmic sea, staring into timelines not yet written. These are not fantasies, they are realities you've forgotten how to reach. And sleep, real sleep, is how you return. But it doesn't always begin beautifully. Sometimes, before you reach the light, you must pass through the static, the clutter, the unresolved. These come as nightmares, as shadows, as strange faces and looping scenarios that make no sense. But they are not punishments. They are fragments of you asking to be seen. They are old stories, broken timelines, soul wounds surfacing through symbol. And when you face them, not with fear but with curiosity, they shift. The monster becomes a message. The chase becomes a clue. The fall becomes a flight. This is shadow work, but on the astral plane. And when you learn to navigate it, you begin to heal in ways therapy could never touch. Because in that space you are unfiltered. There's no persona, no mask, no performance, just truth, raw and electric. You face your guilt, you meet your fear, you witness your unlived lives. And every time you surrender to that process, without trying to control it, something lifts, something clears. You don't just wake up lighter, you wake up more you. And here's what they'll never teach you in school. The world you wake up to changes because you changed in the other one. The decisions you make feel different. The people you attract shift. You start to see synchronicities everywhere. Numbers, symbols, déjà vu. Because your waking life begins to sync with your soul's trajectory. This is why the ancients paid so much attention to dreams. They knew it wasn't just sleep, it was soul recalibration, nightly realignment, and if you treat it with respect, it begins to show you everything you've been asking for in the daylight. But there's more, because not all dreams are personal. Some are shared. Yes, you can meet others there. Not just symbols, not just ancestors, but actual people, souls you've known before. People you haven't met yet in this life but are destined to. Have you ever dreamed of someone you've never seen before, only to meet them months later and feel that strange, instant familiarity? That's not coincidence. That's resonance, that's soul preparation, that's pre-contact made through the field of sleep. You can also receive information. Real usable knowledge. Artists, scientists, and inventors have long claimed their greatest breakthroughs came through dreams. From Einstein's theory of relativity to Tesla's inventions, they didn't just think their ideas, they remembered them, pulled from the well of universal mind during altered states. Because when you sleep, you're not limited by logic or language. You're plugged into the source. And the source speaks in symbols, visions, vibration, and when you know how to listen, you don't need a guru, you become your own. That's why this truth has been hidden, because if everyone realized that they are interdimensional beings capable of nightly travel, receiving wisdom from beyond the veil, meeting their higher selves and healing their timelines, the systems built on fear and separation would collapse overnight. You wouldn't chase external validation. You wouldn't need permission to grow. You wouldn't fear death, because you would know, deeply, that you are more than this life. that you've been here before, that you'll be here again, and that every night you return to a part of yourself far more expansive than anything this world has offered you. So the next time you hear someone say, "Sleep is important," smile, because you know why. You know the hidden meaning, the forbidden meaning, that sleep is not rest, it's return, it's transfer. It's your nightly departure from the matrix into the infinite field that remembers exactly who you are. And the more you practice, the more aware you become, the more those two worlds begin to merge, until one day they're not separate at all. And that's where the real transformation begins. When the walls between the dream and the waking world dissolve, you start to realize the truth that's been whispered to you in symbols and visions your entire life. This isn't a dream. This isn't a simulation. This is a projection, a dense realm where your consciousness comes to learn, to create, to remember. But at night, when you return, you're reminded of who you were before this avatar, before this name, before this world ever convinced you that you were small. There's a reason some of your most profound emotions come from dreams. That intense love, that unbearable grief, that sense of flying or falling. Those aren't just feelings. They're fragments of memory, echoes of past lives, glimpses of your original self, the one that exists outside of time. And each night, when you let go of this body and release the grip on identity, you return to that place. Even if you don't remember it when you wake up, your soul does, and that's why you change. Not in obvious ways, but in the subtle ones. The way your eyes see the world differently, the way you begin to feel things before they happen, the way you start to sense when someone isn't telling the truth. Because your consciousness is stretching, expanding, reconnecting with layers of reality that go far beyond this one. You begin to tap into the field, into knowing, into the invisible threads that weave through every moment, every meeting, every choice. And then something else happens. You stop fearing the dark. Not just the literal dark, but the darkness in your own mind. The unknown, the shadow. Because you've walked through it. You've seen what's on the other side. The nightmare that used to paralyze you. You now see it for what it is. A lesson, a reflection, a teacher dressed in fear. And once you face it, once you look it in the eye and refuse to run, it changes shape. It softens. It dissolves. And behind it you see something ancient, familiar. Yourself. That's what this is all about. Not escaping the world, but integrating your truth. Taking what you remember on the other side and bringing it here into this life, into this version of you. Because you're not meant to live split in two. You're not meant to sleep in one world and suffer in another. You're meant to merge them, to become whole, to live as a bridge between realms. Awake, aware, and alive. That's what terrifies the systems of control. A human being who is no longer cut off from their essence. Because a person like that doesn't just follow. They don't just obey. They question. They create. They shift reality by the vibration they carry. And if enough people wake up to this truth, the illusion collapses. Think about it. Why is dream work not taught in schools? Why are ancient texts on astral projection buried or dismissed? Why is the pineal gland, which sits at the center of your brain like a cosmic antenna, not spoken about in medicine except as a vestigial organ with no purpose? Why is fluoride, known to calcify this gland, still added to your water? Because this isn't about health. It's about containment. They don't want you exploring other realms. They don't want you meeting the guides, the ancestors, the energies that can show you who you truly are. They don't want you to discover that this reality is not the only one, that this version of you is not the only one, that you're part of something so vast, so interconnected, that the very idea of competition, hierarchy, or fear becomes laughable. Because once you experience that, even once, it changes you forever. And no, not every dream is a message. Not every experience is a cosmic revelation. Some are clutter, static, leftover noise from your day. But that's why your intention matters. That's why your energy before sleep matters. Because your frequency determines what door you walk through. If you fall asleep in anger, you might enter a lower vibrational layer. a realm of distortion, fear, confusion. But if you enter in peace, in openness, in reverence, you rise. You enter places of clarity, realms of guidance, fields of healing. And the more you do this, the more intentional you become, the clearer it all gets. You stop waking up confused. You wake up aligned. You wake up with clarity, direction, even answers to questions you didn't consciously ask. This is what it means to become a conscious traveler. Not just a dreamer, but a navigator of your soul's journey. You are not meant to be a passive sleeper. You are meant to be an explorer, a receiver, a transmitter, a being of light wrapped in flesh, with access to every layer of existence, if you choose to remember. And if you've made it this far, you're already remembering. Your soul has brought you here for a reason, because you're ready to see past the veil, to reclaim what you were never supposed to forget, that you are not just a human being who occasionally dreams. You are an eternal being having a temporary experience in one layer of reality, and every night you go home. So tonight, before you close your eyes, take a breath. Set the intention, speak it from your heart, even in a whisper. I remember who I am. I remember where I go. I travel with awareness. I wake with truth. Say it once, mean it deeply, and watch what unfolds. Because the truth is, you don't need to leave your body to escape this illusion. You need to reclaim your consciousness. You need to trust that the places you visit in the dark are not just dreams. They are destinations, missions, messages, echoes of a life beyond this one, reminding you of your power, your purpose, and your infinite nature. You were never meant to sleep through your evolution. You were meant to awaken through it, night after night, journey after journey, until the dreamer becomes the dream and the dream becomes reality. Everything you've ever wondered about why sleep feels so strange, so sacred, so mysterious, it's because you're brushing up against the truth every single night. You've been told you're resting, but that's not what your soul is doing. Your soul is decoding, traveling, merging, recalibrating. You're stepping out of one illusion and into a space where the rules bend, and your true nature begins to shine through the cracks. And the more you open your mind to this, the more it begins to happen in ways you can't ignore. You might start waking up at the exact same time every night, often around 3 in the morning. That's not random, that's a call, a signal. A moment where the veil is thinnest and your spirit is closest to full lucidity. You might start remembering strange symbols in your dreams, things you've never seen, languages you've never learned. But when you look them up, they exist. They match ancient glyphs, mystical codes, forgotten texts. That's not your imagination, that's memory, that's soul recognition. Your subconscious is not separate from your higher self. It is the pathway to it. Every image, every metaphor, every surreal vision you experience while asleep is your inner world trying to speak to you in the only language that bypasses the limitations of logic. Symbolism. That serpent chasing you isn't just fear, it's transformation. That endless hallway you keep walking through isn't just scenery. It's your mind preparing you for a dimensional shift. And that bright white room with no exit, that's source. Pure, undistorted, the place you came from, the place you'll return to. And here's what most people don't know. There are layers to the dream world. Just like in this reality, some levels are dense, heavy, close to the physical. They look like your house, your city, your job. That's why some dreams feel like an exact replica of your waking life. They're called simulacrum realms. But others are light, fluid, abstract. You'll find yourself flying without wings, speaking without sound, merging into the environment itself. And even higher than that are the Akashic fields, where past, present, and future converge, where everything you've ever done or ever will do exists as light and vibration, waiting to be accessed. When you're in these upper planes, time doesn't exist. You're not dreaming of what's next. You're experiencing what always is. That's why some people dream of events that later unfold. Why you meet someone and feel like you've known them forever. Because you have. In dreams you've already met, already spoken, already aligned. And when you understand that, the way you approach your waking life transforms. You stop searching for answers outside yourself. You stop asking others what you should do, because you start to remember that you already know. The guidance isn't out there, it's within, and it's been speaking to you for years through your sleep, patiently waiting for you to pay attention. Even those dreams you've been too afraid to talk about, the ones that didn't make sense, the ones where you were someone else, where you were somewhere impossible, where you saw things you didn't want to see. Those were not errors, those were transmissions, tests, doorways. And even if you woke up shaking or confused, part of you understood, part of you passed through and brought something back. But most people wake up and forget. They shake off the feeling, they tell themselves it was just a dream. And that's exactly how the illusion wins, through forgetfulness, through dismissal, through making the sacred feel insignificant. But not you, not anymore, because now you know. Now you see what they tried so hard to bury. That your dreams are not dreams, they are echoes of reality. Sometimes the past, sometimes the future, sometimes the multidimensional self pulling you across timelines to show you who you really are. A healer, a traveler, a creator, a watcher, a being made of light wrapped in skin, here to remember and awaken. And yes, some of it will be uncomfortable. Not every realm is filled with angels and glowing light. Some are shadows, mirrors of trauma. You may find yourself in places that feel hostile or strange, but even then you're not powerless. You are never powerless in a dream. The second you realize that, the second you stop running and start engaging, everything shifts. The monster transforms. The trap becomes a lesson. The fear becomes fuel. And the reason you're hearing this now, in this moment, is because you're ready. Ready to walk with your eyes open, both in this world and in the one beyond. Ready to set intention before sleep. Ready to meet your higher self without fear. Ready to receive the assignments, the messages, the guidance that has been waiting for you on the other side of your closed eyelids. Because here's the truth they never want to admit. This reality, the one you're in right now, is just as flexible, just as malleable, just as dreamlike as the ones you visit at night. The only difference is your level of belief. In your dreams you accept flying as natural, talking animals as normal, shifting time and space as expected. But here you doubt your own power, you question your worth, you forget that all of it, this too, is vibration. But what if you stopped drawing that line? What if you brought the knowing from your dreams into your waking life? What if you treated this world like one of your lucid visions, where you create with intention, speak with energy, and manifest with focus? You'd start to see the fabric of this reality bend in ways that defy logic. You'd start to notice the signs, the synchronicities, the small ripple effects of your consciousness shifting matter, because it does. And sleep, true sleep, is where you learn how. So, no more brushing it off, no more giving away the most sacred hours of your life to numbness, noise, or meaningless distraction. From now on, sleep becomes sacred. You become the traveler, the dreamwalker, the one who crosses worlds, gathers light and brings it back, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's still asleep. Because the deeper truth is this: we're all connected. The dream field is shared. The more you awaken inside of it, the more your light touches others. Your clarity becomes a beacon. Your awareness becomes a ripple, and eventually it spreads. A global awakening, one dreamer at a time. So tonight, when you lay down, don't just fall asleep. Launch. Close your eyes knowing you are stepping into your second life. Breathe deeply, silence your mind, and as the veil begins to lift, whisper the words that change everything. I remember. I am ready. Let the transfer begin. And when the transfer begins, you'll notice something different. You won't be drifting. You'll be moving. Not physically, but energetically, consciously, like being pulled through a tunnel of vibrations. Not a tunnel of darkness, but a tunnel of awareness. You'll feel the layers shifting. You'll sense the body becoming light, less dense, less loud. And then comes the silence. That beautiful, heavy, sacred silence right before you cross. That's the threshold. And what you do with it matters more than you think, because intention in that moment is everything. Intention is the compass of the soul. If your intention is truth, you will be led to the places where truth is waiting. If your intention is healing, you will find yourself in temples made of sound and color, surrounded by frequencies that speak directly to your cells. If your intention is growth, challenge will come, not to punish you, but to shape you, sharpen you, elevate you. You might find yourself in a room with beings you've never seen but somehow know. They won't speak with words. They'll speak in light, in pulses, in symbols that flood your inner vision with meaning so clear it can't be misunderstood. You'll receive downloads, not just ideas but full transmissions. Wisdom that bypasses intellect and goes straight to your core. You'll wake up with answers. You'll wake up with peace. You'll wake up remembering something ancient, not something you read, not something you learned, something you are. And that's the difference between a sleeper and a traveler. Sleepers forget. Travelers bring it back. And maybe that's why you've always felt a little different. Maybe that's why you've never been able to fully buy into this world, the rat race, the empty goals, the scripted roles. Maybe deep down you've always remembered the other world, the real world, the place behind the veil that makes this one feel like a performance, like a test, like a dream inside a dream. That's not coincidence. That's calling. And your dreams? They've been trying to tell you. All those strange symbols, the repeated numbers, the people who show up again and again, that door you can't quite open, that place you return to night after night. Those aren't random. They're coordinates, codes, lessons. A curriculum designed by your higher self to guide you back to remembrance, back to mastery, back to the truth they tried to erase. And once you start paying attention, it all begins to accelerate. Dreams get clearer, signs get louder. You start recognizing the architecture of the dream world, the way colors feel more alive, the way you can manipulate your surroundings with thought alone. The way fear fades the moment you realize you have nothing to fear. Because in that realm, you are limitless, you are fluid. You are the observer and the creator at once. And that's not just true in the dream, that's true here too. You've just forgotten how to access it. But now, you're remembering. You're beginning to reclaim the power of your own consciousness, the power to move beyond the scripts you've been handed, the power to choose what world you engage with, the power to travel instead of sleep. And once that awareness becomes consistent, it creates a ripple effect in every part of your waking life. Your creativity expands, your anxiety fades, your relationships shift, your purpose sharpens, because you're no longer fragmented, you're no longer living half of your existence asleep to who you really are. This is why ancient wisdom spoke of dreams with reverence. They called them messages from the gods, visions of the soul, doors to the beyond. They didn't brush them off, they lived by them. Entire civilizations were guided by dream oracles and nocturnal visions. Kings wouldn't go to war without consulting their dreams. Healers diagnosed illness based on dream symbology. Mystics spent entire nights in dream temples, seeking divine guidance from the source. They knew what modern science forgot, or chose to ignore, that sleep is not downtime, it's sacred time, a return to the origin, a rehearsal for the next life, a nightly reminder that you are more than this. And here's something you need to hear. Not all souls dream the same. Some drift, some wander, some repeat the same loops night after night. But those who enter with awareness, they gain access to the hidden realms, the soul planes, the echo zones, the higher grids of learning and light. And once you've been there, really been there, nothing in this world satisfies the same way again, because you've tasted truth. And truth makes you hungry for more of itself. But you can't force it. This isn't about control, it's about surrender. The deeper you relax into your own energy, the more clearly the dream reveals itself. The more you trust the process, the more vivid the symbols become, and the more you choose alignment over fear, the more you remember. And when you remember, you wake up different. You start to see that this world, the one where you're watching this right now, is another layer of the dream. That everything you've been taught to believe is solid is actually vibrational, that the boundaries between real and unreal are illusions created by the mind. The ancient mystics called it Maya, the great illusion. Not that the world is fake, but that it is incomplete, a partial view, a single room in an infinite house. And dreams, real dreams, show you the rest of the structure. They let you walk the halls of eternity. They let you visit the rooms you forgot existed. They give you back the keys to the places you once lived, before you were born. And when you begin to live like that, when you move through your days knowing you are more than what you appear to be, your energy shifts, people notice it, they feel something around you, a calm, a depth, a sense that you've touched something they haven't, and in that moment without saying a word you become a mirror, a reminder, a beacon, because the truth isn't just for you, it's for everyone. And the more you walk in it, the more others start to remember too, so the next time you feel tired, don't just crash into sleep. Prepare. Speak with intention. Acknowledge that you're about to travel. Say it aloud. Whisper it in your heart. Light a candle. Sit in silence. Ask your higher self to show you what you need to see. And when the darkness comes, don't fear it. Walk into it like a doorway, because that's what it is. The entrance to a world where the limits disappear and the soul begins to stretch its wings. You were never meant to just rest. You were meant to roam. You were meant to reclaim what was hidden. You were meant to awaken not just once, but every single night. You were born with this ability, long before the world told you what to believe, before they trained your mind to ignore what your soul never forgot. As a child you dreamed freely, vividly. You flew without effort, spoke to beings with glowing eyes and soft voices. You walked through light and remembered things no one ever taught you. But as you grew, they replaced your wonder with rules. They labeled your dreams as meaningless. They replaced your visions with bedtime stories, then told you none of it was real. But parts of you held on. The dreams never stopped, they just shifted, hid beneath the noise, waited for you to return, and now you are. Right now, in this moment, you are being called back into that deeper truth. That truth that sleep is not a pause in your life, it's the continuation of it. That every time you surrender to sleep, you're not turning off, you're tuning in to another frequency, another world, another version of you. And if you've ever felt that, even once, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That moment where time melts, where you stand face to face with someone or something that makes you question what you thought was possible. That clarity, that feeling of, I know this place. That's not your imagination, that's memory returning. That's your soul knocking on the door of your waking life, asking to be let in. And when you let it in, everything shifts. You start receiving guidance in ways you never expected. You might wake up with a phrase in your head, a word that means nothing to your conscious mind but echoes through your body like a bell. You might see visions before falling asleep, flashes of faces, places, colors that feel like transmissions from another life. You might wake up feeling like someone else, not in a scary way, but in the most empowering way, like a deeper version of you has stepped forward and taken the reins. And it has. Because every night you travel, you gather pieces of your soul that were scattered across timelines. You reclaim lost fragments. You retrieve wisdom. And when you return, you carry all of it with you, even if you don't consciously remember. Your energy remembers. Your intuition sharpens. Your choices become more aligned. You begin to move through this world like someone who's seen behind the curtain, someone who knows the code. And once you know the code, the game can't play you anymore. This is how you awaken, not in a single moment, but again and again, through the nightly practice of remembering, through the sacred ritual of entering the dream space, not as a sleeper, but as a seeker, as a conscious participant in your soul's evolution. And yes, there will be resistance. The Matrix is clever. It will try to keep you distracted. It will make you exhausted, busy, addicted to screens, caught in cycles. It will feed you just enough pleasure to sedate you and just enough fear to keep you chasing safety. But once you realize what's really at stake, Once you understand that your dreams are the map, the training ground, the blueprint for your awakening, you stop letting the distractions win. Because this isn't just about dreams, it's about your destiny. Every great mystic, every awakened teacher, every soul who has touched the higher realms, they all knew the power of sleep, not as escape, but as revelation. They entered it with reverence. They emerged from it with fire in their spirit and clarity in their eyes. They moved differently, spoke differently, because they were drawing from something beyond this world, and you can too. You already are. You wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't ready. If your soul hadn't already decided that now is the time to remember what they tried to make you forget, that your dreams are not dreams, they are invitations, that sleep is not rest, it's return, that you are not broken, you are becoming whole. So tonight, when you close your eyes, don't slip away. Ascend. Anchor yourself in presence. Speak to your higher self like an old friend. Call in your guardians, your ancestors, your guides. Ask them to show you what you're ready to see. And when the world begins to fade and the vibrations start to shift, let go. You're not falling asleep, you're transferring. And when you wake up, don't rush back into noise. Give yourself a few quiet minutes. Listen. What do you feel? What do you remember? What is your soul trying to say before the day pulls you back under? Write it down, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's just a symbol, a phrase, a flash of color. Those fragments are keys, and over time they will begin to fit together. They will become the map back to yourself. Because this isn't about escaping reality, it's about expanding it. About remembering that this world, this life, this version of you is just one frequency in an infinite field. And you are a traveler of them all. You came here to live fully, yes, but also to remember what you are beyond this flesh, beyond this name, beyond this dream. You came to bring light into this realm, and every time you return from the other side a little more awake, a little more aligned, you become the bridge between worlds. So let them call it sleep. You'll know the truth, it's transfer. And tonight, it begins again.